you're just starting roll call. Could you unmute?
No, we had to unmute. I think we're good now. Okay, let's start again. Mayor Giles.
Here.
Councilmember Machezik.
Here.
Councilmember Nelson.
Here.
Councilmember Nielsen.
I'm here.
Councilmember Thrower. Here.
Thank you, Bessie Jo. If everyone could join me, I'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I am going to call for a motion to approve the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda for tonight's city council meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lyle. Thank you, Julie. Motion has been made and seconded to approve the agenda for tonight's city council meeting. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks, council. That's here in the building, so that's unanimous. That motion carries. Next, we'll move on to consent agenda. Does any council member wish to have an item removed to discuss at a later time?
We approve the consent agenda.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Lyle. Thank you, Colby. Motion has been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda as submitted and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents. May I have a roll call vote on this motion, please?
Councilmember Nielsen.
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson.
Yes.
Mayor Giles.
Yes.
Councilmember Machezik.
Yes.
Councilmember Thrower. Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. We'll next move on to general public comment. This afternoon, we had one comment received that has been distributed to council, and there is one person that has signed up, and that is Mr. Richards, and your first name is
Daryl.
Daryl. And Mr. Richards, we noticed that you're on the schedule later on for an appointment to one of the committees. Which committee is it?
It's the redevelopment.
The MRA. Great. Well, if you would like to talk to us now, you have 3 minutes. If your intent was just to be present during the discussion about your appointment, recommendation for MRA, then you're welcome to stick around and wait for that.
I just want to be present for that.
Well, thanks. Thanks for being here tonight. Is there anyone that didn't sign up that would like to address council on a general comment? Okay. And did anyone sign up online?
No.
All right. Then we're going to move into our first item of business, which is a report from our consultant, a company called Lotus Sustainability. And Meredith, you're going to give us an introduction to this sustainability report that Lotus has for us tonight.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Meredith Todd, your City and Sustainability Planner. Tonight is going to be the first major project update on our climate action plan that is in progress, titled Rooted in Resilience. You initially met Lotus Sustainability and Engineering last April when we entered into the contract for services to enter into the climate action planning process. So tonight we have Grace Sullivan and Tom Herod from Lotus Sustainability here on the internet. There's their cameras. There they are, tuning in from Denver. And they will be reviewing progress made thus far. You've got a memo within your packet about the work plan that they've been going through over the last several months, almost a year now, as well as some indications of next steps. And then earlier before the meeting, we did send out a pretty extensive packet of the public engagement we've received thus far via the surveying process. Some updates for you that won't be touched on heavily by Lotus, but are upcoming in the next 2 months in the community engagement for this plan. On March 10th, McCall Outdoor Science School grad students will be hosting an educational workshop here in the library across the whole bottom floor to dive into the topics with community members, and that'll be facilitated by our 12-15 grad students in their teaching week. They'll also be appearing in 3 sections of critical reading at the local high school to deepen the understanding of climate and resilience within the community. We just launched 2 out of 3 what we're calling meetings in a box. So community members are able to check out either a set of climate-focused comic books that are targeted for young students or young children. So Payette Lakes Children's Association and the Library After School program currently have the comic book meeting in a box to discuss the topic with younger kids. And then we also have a photo-based activity that we have yet to score some people that want to interrogate all of the images that we have within that. And then we'll be launching a case study conversation meeting in a box that talks about snowpack, talks about wildfire, talks about water quality, and how those relate to the climate in McCall. So that last one will be launching in the next couple weeks. And then we're hoping to bring those to community organizations within McCall so that we can get greater input from nonprofits and other interest groups. And then in April, we will be hosting a demo day and learning fair. Location is to be decided, but we'll be seeing different versions of electric transportation. So a few different models of electric car will be available. Some e-carts that do well in cold temperatures that have been recommended from the town of Crested Butte might be able to come and be demoed with us. And then various tools that run on electricity or reduced alternative power will be able to be tested there. If the snow holds up, we might even be able to spin around an e-snowmobile. We have to depend on the weather for all of these things, but we're hoping for the best. And then because that is our Arbor Day weekend, they'll roll into a more detailed work session on your Friday morning work session on the 25th, as well as be attending the Arbor Day celebration on the 26th to do a bit of a climate action plan pop-up with the community over at Franz Whitty. So with that, I can pass it over to Grace and Tom, or I can stand for any questions.
Any questions at this point, Council?
None for me.
Thank you, Mike. All right. Grace and Tom, this is Mayor Bob. Thanks for joining us tonight. The packet is really very complete, really interesting. We learned a lot by reading it, and it's so good to see you again. Some of us, of course, got interviewed in person. I think everyone on council and a bunch of city employees and community members as well. So we look forward to hearing from you tonight. It's a real good touch point to kind of paint the picture of where we might be headed in a couple of months. I understand we have a very big workshop to start working on actual things to get funded and get started on implementing. So thank you for joining us tonight. Look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much for having us, council members and mayor. Let me go ahead and pull up my presentation here. It's just me one moment. Do you see it now?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Again, thank you so much for having us here. My name is Grace Sullivan, and I'm here with my colleague Tom. If you'd like to introduce yourself briefly.
Hi, everyone. Tom here. Great to be back with you all again.
Thanks, Tom. So I will breeze through this to leave as much time for questions as possible. I understand you have all this information in your packets. Really quickly, what we'll cover today is this very short agenda. We'll go over the goals and outcomes, our progress to date, and then, of course, next steps. So the project goals and outcomes that we have already talked about, but as a quick recap, is McCall is interested in preserving the natural beauty of McCall for generations to come. And McCall is also on the precipice of continued growth. All of this is set to the backdrop of wildfires, decreasing snowpack, among other challenges. But the most important goal and reason for this plan is the why now. And that's because there's expressed public interest and you have all set it as a priority. So we understand that you approved the framework, you've approved this work, and we're very thankful for that leadership. So with that support from you all and from the community, we proceed. So we have done, as Meredith mentioned, over the last year, we've done a very careful review of existing plans, existing community engagement, and the existing landscape. We've identified 3 categories of strategies, which I have here on the screen: health and resilience, destination management, and transportation. This also neatly aligns with the results of the 2018 greenhouse gas inventory, which identified emissions to be greatest in these relating sectors. So I've already started to explain what we've been up to, but I will kind of give you this timeline overview. And what this really shows is that we're kind of at a turning point in this plan. We've already started to, as I mentioned, we've done all this research, all this background, the inventory review. We've started to engage the community, and we've talked to critical partners. And we have a suite of strategies. And now it's really important that we hone that suite of strategies and we make sure they're truly actionable. We want them to be pragmatic and defensible by data. So that's the turning point in which we are at. So the next several months are really dedicated to making sure that these strategies are implementable. And I think Tom can really show on the next screen how we plan to do this. He has a great example of the type of data that we're looking for, the type of research that we're looking for to make sure that you have the best strategies that fit closest to McCall's needs. So over to you, Tom.
Great. Thanks, Grace. Yeah, we wanted to give you a little bit of a flavor of what's to come in terms of some of the strategy technical analysis that we'll be doing. We understood that a consideration of an EV fleet, or at least some portion of the fleet being converted to EV, was at least front and center. So we wanted to do a little bit more of an analysis. Earlier in the year, or I guess part of last year, Sawatch Labs did an analysis of some of your internal fleet and some of the savings that could be realized through converting it to an electric vehicle fleet that relied really heavily on miles traveled. And so Lotus really wanted to take a deeper dive look at this and look at some of the fuel consumption of those vehicles. As you know, in terms of vehicles, they can be driven, but they can also run at certain times. And so we really wanted to use fuel consumed as a metric to compare internal combustion engines, or ICE, and electric vehicles. And so we looked at about 13 different vehicles. That was part of the Sawatch Labs analysis, comparing those total costs, the lifetime costs. And so looking at those EV costs versus internal combustion engines, obviously, fuel cost right now for an internal combustion engine, it's about, I think we used an estimate of $4.10 per gallon, compared to EV cost, which uses electricity, which is much cheaper per kilowatt hour, and the amount of energy that it produces or provides to the car. But not only that, in terms of cost savings, EVs also emit less emissions into the air. So cleaner air, cleaner water are also a result of internal combustion engines being converted to electric vehicles too. So on the right, you see those emissions comparisons. Even as the grid today, if it were to stay as it is right now, there's still some emission savings. We anticipate that all grids across the U.S., including in Idaho, will be getting cleaner as we go through the year. So those emissions may actually even be even more reduced in electric vehicles as well. And then to the next slide, Grace. To really put this into perspective, and I think this is kind of a telling graphic that can really help folks. This was put together from our friends at the Yale Climate Communication Center. When you look at an internal combustion engine vehicle on the left there, of that fuel that you're putting into the car, most of that is lost. It is just, it runs an engine that really does nothing more than just sort of that engine loss of energy. When you look at an electric vehicle, the vast majority of the energy put into that from the grid is actually used to move the wheels of the vehicle, to power the electronics within the vehicle themselves. And so, a good analogy to this would be, I think, folks may say, well, yes, electric vehicles are more expensive, and that is true. But even factored into that, the full lifetime savings are still better for an electric vehicle. And so a good analogy would be, yes, adding insulation to a home that you're building does make that home more expensive to build, but it does allow you to keep the energy that you're using in your home and save money on the energy that you use. So electric vehicles are a really great option. Happy that we could provide this analysis and hopefully maybe give you a little bit more insight into this potential conversion that you're contemplating. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Grace.
Thank you, Tom. So in addition to these types of analyses and research, we've also had very focused conversations. And this slide is really intended to show you the depth and breadth of the focus conversations that we've had. We've worked with city staff, we've had informational interviews, we've of course talked to you all. We're profoundly grateful for your leadership and the leadership of the CAP steering committee, which is listed here on the screen. We've also worked with local businesses and critical partners from across the 3 sectors that we mentioned: health and resilience, transportation, and destination management. We continue to work with the community. We're still working to gain input and buy-in. As I mentioned earlier, this next few months are really working at the strategies that we have and making sure that they're truly workable for everyone in the community and everyone that's responsible for implementing them. So as part of this ongoing work to gain the input and buy-in, we have more informational interviews. McCall's project management team has attended community events. We are rolling out meetings in a box to tailor conversations with even more stakeholders. Moss has also been a wonderful partnership for us. And in April, as Meredith mentioned, Lotus will be in town to attend Arbor Day and EV Demo Day. And Tom, I know you had a few things to say. You're so eloquent on the subject of EV, so I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, we're really excited about the EV Demo Day. I think all those charts and graphs are one thing, and it's great to have that analysis behind maybe a potential decision. But really, I think when it comes down to it, just getting behind the wheel of an EV and really demonstrating that they are, they're every amount of equal to an internal combustion engine in terms of their handling, their ability to handle cold weather, you name it. But boy, they are very fun to drive and just really a cool thing to get behind and just kick the tires a little bit more. So I'm excited to be up there to be part of that.
So in addition to those focus conversations, we also issued 6 rapid surveys to the community with over 2,000 responses. Each of the surveys had a specific topic, which you see here on the screen and is also within your packet. As a quick overview of the survey results, we learned from the community that they are aware of and interested in using less water. Wildfire smoke is, of course, the largest impact to quality of life. I think that has been reflected across all conversations. 77% of residents are aware of the benefits of energy efficiency and are already participating in programs. Clean Energy Your Way is one such program that showed that half of respondents were interested in or already participating in that program. So I think that shows a high appetite for those types of opportunities. Residents are more likely to replace their car or their single occupancy vehicle travel with bikes. That's both regular bikes and electric bikes. And then concerns are, of course, around the busyness of McCall, congestion, and local housing. And then interests are wildfire readiness, diversifying energy sources, waste diversion, buying local, and improving insulation. Again, we all interviewed you all, and out of the summation of those conversations are these 4 priorities. We have housing, a community that is navigable without a vehicle, but we also heard loud and clear that you really want pragmatic and actionable strategies, and you want to see a community that's responsible with the opportunities and resources that is available to McCall. So kind of in all of this and kind of rising out of what are the most popular strategies? Of course, fire mitigation strategies rise to the top for health and resilience, energy efficiency strategies as a way to address cost of living, waste diversion rises to the top as well. For destination management, we see strategies rise to the top that educate visitors on how to steward McCall and that protect sensitive environmental areas. And for transportation, we see an appetite for public transportation being increased or enhanced and electric bike programs. So now that we have all of these strategies and all of this input, it's really important that we create a prioritization methodology. We will partner with the CAP steering committee to set this methodology, but there's a myriad of factors that could go into helping us decide which strategies will have the biggest impact and do the best at addressing the challenges that McCall faces and the opportunities and resources that McCall has. These are just a few of the factors that could go into this prioritization methodology. We can certainly talk more about this in our discussion in April, but strategies could be ranked on their ability to reduce emissions, they could be ranked on their ability to meet stakeholder and community needs, or the ability to, let me see if I can.
That's Grace at hospital.
Sorry, I think I muted that call, but that was not coming from my computer. So other factors could be a partnership with the Nez Perce tribe, or feasibility. So next steps. Zooming a little bit closer in on the timeline, this is what we plan to do in the next few quarters. So we will finalize the plan framework. We will investigate funding and strategies to make all of this feasible. We will be there in April. We're very much looking forward to those events and having those discussions with critical decision makers. We will model 3 to 5 strategies to help you understand the trajectory that those strategies could put you on. Then we'll draft the plan, we'll have more critical conversations, and we move to finalize and adopt the plan in fall. So with that, I will yield the floor to questions.
Well, first of all, thanks for being with us tonight, and look forward to lots more information. I'm sure council has some questions or maybe some comments they'd like to pass along. Kyle?
Yeah, sure. I'm just going to look at my notes and make a couple comments, then you could address them. So one thing is, I think of this plan as being on the shelf for 3 to 5 years. So it has to give us the teeth and capacity that to deal with the issues that might be 4 years down the road. And I think that we need to have some substantial recommendations that give us the capacity to do what the policy and the ordinance necessary for that. See, you addressed a couple of my other ones. I think in the process, I think the process is outstanding. Super confidence in the process. I just want to make sure the process gets us to the result that we can enact both the ordinances that really make the big difference, as well as those ones you say are the kind of low-hanging fruit. Okay, another thing I put down for notes, I think of, how we have the incentive to build smaller houses, the incentive to build greener houses. And I think that's all coming from you. Such things as no new houses that disrupt waterway, shores, or banks. And these are the kinds of teeth that I think this plan needs to be able to give the city council, as an example. And then another thing I put down here on your notes, you said, we want to do strategies that are practical, and I certainly agree with that. But I also think practical, they may not be popular. And they will be popular with the people who are currently here. They may not be popular with the people who want to invest in McCall. So that's my first round of comments, other than thank you.
Julie?
Yeah, I think a couple things that Lyle said sort of hit it on the nail there in terms of, if we have a plan, I don't want to see it sitting on the shelf for 3 to 5 years. And I think, if I think about some of the other plans that we've had other consultants give us, there are short-term strategies or short-term actions and long-term actions. And I imagine that you will be helping us look at those things so that, when this thing gets adopted, we can be off and running with implementing it. There's a graph that you guys didn't put up in your presentation that I really loved, or I should say an image, a photo or whatever, but it's this one, replacing gasoline powered cars with EVs saves energy regardless of energy source. I thought that was brilliant. I love it because there's always that discussion of like, oh, well, you have an EV car, but you burn coal, so what does that mean? Or you have an EV car, we have a larger percentage of power in Idaho comes from cleaner energy, but what does that mean, when you have hydropower? And it's really great that it really shows that regardless of where your energy source is, you're still saving energy. Even if you've got a clean source of energy, it's still worth going that EV direction to save energy from that end, and in turn that's going to save you costs. So I encourage anybody listening to go into our city council packet and look at that. I love it.
Thanks, Julie. Mike, if you can hear me, we're going to go to you next.
I can hear you just fine. Yeah, I don't have any questions. Very good presentation, both in the packet and in person. So thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Colby?
Same.
So the only thing I wanted to add, I'm very into this part of the packet, is the community engagement part that you talked about tonight. And I was looking at the number of responses. So I see numbers like people that work in destination management or identify with that. 361 responses. Health and resilience of our water. 460 responses. Health and resilience impacts on the quality of life. 372 responses. And energy, 348. I think that's really robust. And when Lyle said the process is working, that's why I guess I'm very optimistic to hearing more in a couple of months. I think we'll have a very productive meeting. So thanks for going slow at the beginning to make sure that we gained all of that information from people. Appreciate it. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Meredith.
I have nothing further to add, Mayor, but thank you.
So tell us a little bit about the meeting in 2 months. Is it April or May?
Yep. So in April, we have Lotus visiting us on the ground here from the 24th through the 26th. So that will be kicking off with the demo day right before your evening council meeting. And we're hoping to have as many staff members as possible testing vehicles, as well as various community members that have interest. And then following morning, we wake up nice and early and we do one of your classical Friday work sessions focused on learning deeper these strategies and actions that are being recommended based on the prioritization method that we're going to be getting into over the next month. But I think most excitingly, everybody mark your calendars for March 10th. Moss always does a great job tooting my horn as a graduate of that program, educating the community as well as kids that come to visit the community to learn more about our outdoor resources in the McCall area. And they've graciously agreed to incorporate this planning process into their graduate school curriculum this year. So they've been working really hard doing outreach with local leaders within all of the different areas of the plan to learn more about how do we involve ourselves with wildfire. Are we living with wildfire, against wildfire, and so on and so forth through all of those different topic areas. And now they've prepared 30 to 40 minute lesson plans for all age groups to run around here in the library and dig in some more to each of these topic areas within the plan, get to know other people within the community, and be connected to the surveys that are still open, that we've had open for that time in case they haven't had a chance to weigh in just yet. And last time we did a community-wide event relating to climate about 2 years ago over on the Moss campus. It was really a wonderful all-day conversation that Moss put on. So I think it's going to be a bit more of the same and start some conversations, continue some conversations, and hopefully lead to a bit more input on this plan as we're growing it.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, Meredith, Tom, and Grace, thank you so much for briefing us tonight. We look forward to our future meetings with you, and keep up the good work.
Mayor Bob, I agree that I want to close with add two things. One is, now I can only think of one. One thought is, if the plan can lead to some measurements or get the public to be aware of what some of the successes that we can lead to. And I think of this winter, no wildfire smoke, and yet we had maybe 10 days in a row of what the weather report called air stagnation. Of course, air stagnation is an inversion, and it's caused mostly by home heats and cars. So we can look at something and say, well, maybe in I know my second point now. So maybe in 5 years that we could see something that the public goes, yeah, I really want that. And it's a big step. It's a big deal to turn around the air in a place that's growing this fast. And now I forgot my number two again. Yeah. So, I got number two. I think I really agree with what Julie said. I didn't mean to imply that we have a plan that sits on the shelf for 3 to 5 years. And you know that too, because this is something that there's a high degree of energy in the community, and the interaction to begin right away is imperative that it gets us going. So thanks. No,
Okay,
that's my big spiel for the night.
all right. Well, we're going to move on to our next topic. We're going to hear about our Mountain Community Center District proposal. And Kurt, glad to see you in the audience. Would you please introduce all the folks and introduce the topic for us?
Yeah, give me 1 second. All right. Good evening, Mayor Bob, members of the council. Kurt Wolf, Parks and Recreation Director. So I'd like to introduce a team tonight of local professionals, parents, and longtime community members that have recently organized to establish an auditorium district to help us help this community in Valley build local facilities for year-round events and recreation, fostering youth athletics and community health and welfare in all seasons. So the Community Center District team is here to present their goals and objectives to the council. I know a lot of you are familiar with some of their work to date. Tonight, this presentation will act as a first formal touch with the council and provide an opportunity on their progress to date. The council will have the opportunity to engage and direct questions related to these goals and objectives and provide thoughts and ideas. Recognizing that that many of the components of these efforts will become more concrete in future updates and work sessions with the council will likely be scheduled. So as this work progresses, city staff would like to add value where appropriate to this process as it relates to these goals and the best interest of our residents in what supports the goals and initiatives of our adopted PROS plan. So with that, I would like to introduce Lisa Beck and this team. I think Lisa can come up, and then I think it's going to be a group effort here.
It will be.
Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. Mayor and council members, it is a pleasure to introduce this to you. This is really community-wide, 35 years or more in the making as a overall community request. And what we're able to bring to the table today with you guys is an effort for a truly community serving facility that has gained an incredible amount of traction through our efforts of meeting with stakeholders, both at the very local, regional, and then even parts of the state level. We're a very organized group. We're not messing around with this. And so we've been truly working on this for the goal of this serving all members of our regional community here, not self-serving in any manner for this. And along with this, we have been able to have some meetings with some city staff members, obviously with Kurt and a few others that have become familiarized with this. And we really appreciate the time that they've given us. And we do feel now is the time to let you guys in on the amazing project that we're about to introduce to you guys. Okay, with that, I'm going to introduce Blake Lingle and Johanna DeFort.
Thank you.
Get this plugged in and up on your screen.
We'll keep it brief.
Yeah. All right. So as Lisa said, my name is Johanna DeFort. As a professional, my title is Valley County Treasurer. But as Kurt said, you know, we're members of this community. I'm also a mother, a wife, track coach for the local high school team. And fun fact, Kurt was actually my high school track coach, which was pretty exciting. But growing up in this community and, you know, spending all my years here, I've seen one of the major challenges that we face here, and that is to stay active all year round. And that's not just in the winter. Winter is heavy on our minds right now because of the snow on the ground. But as you alluded to earlier, wildfire smoke also pushes us indoors and stops our recreation at certain points during the year. I'll let Blake introduce himself as well.
Yeah, my name is Blake. Kind of go to this next slide. And, it's really great to see it actually the city working on a lot of these environmental initiatives, that was a really cool presentation. And actually based on your pros plan, after those environmental initiatives, as you guys identified, indoor recreation space is the #1 community need. Before I get into a little bit of that, I'll just tell you a little bit about myself and, kind of why I think indoor recreation space is very important. I'm a local business person, entrepreneur. My family and I chose to live here just for these recreation opportunities. We like to recreate. We like to do sports. My kids play sports. I am president of McCall United Soccer Association, and I also coach soccer. As you can imagine, coaching soccer in this community is very challenging, especially in the winter and spring. We just actually recently did this, and actually it's becoming even more challenging, as you alluded, in the summer, where we've had to cancel multiple practices in the summer because of bad air quality. And we did the math recently. We have about 1,000 students between basically the schools and clubs trying to squeeze into 4 gyms. That's not even including Parks and Rec. As you guys know, Parks and Rec has had to cancel some programs due to lack of space. This is actually just a very recent story. My son, who just turned 14 recently, he went to play soccer for the Parks and Rec, and it's kind of a cool and a bad story at the same time, where there was basically a crowded gym. He was super excited. He was there for an hour and a half, but there were a ton of players in there, and he only actually got to play for about 15 minutes as a result of basically lack of space. So we've done the math, and most youth in this community are only getting about 1 hour to 2 hours of recreation time in the gyms in the winter and the spring, which isn't a lot. It's packed. Everyone's scrambling for space. My team the last couple seasons has actually been even relegated. I say that a little bit loosely, but we've actually gone to Elk Creek just to be able to play. I mean, I've gotten so desperate at times. I once called the airport and asked them if they had an empty hangar. I was like, just have a hangar. This doesn't have a plane in it. Can we go play soccer in it? And they said no. And so it's just very, very challenging. And I think even doing that and having some of those conversations, practicing at Elk Creek has even highlighted another community need. Often when I show up at Elk Creek, there are elderly members of our community just walking around. And unfortunately, we usually have to kick them out because we don't want to hit them with a soccer ball. And so, but it just shows that, indoor recreation space is very much needed in this community.
Yeah, and Blake mentioned the PROS plan. Through my work at the county, I also worked on the master facilities plan a couple years ago. And indoor space and recreation space was identified as one of the major needs in our community. Also, the Valley County Recreation Advisory Council just recently published their strategic plan. And a little shout out for them. They're looking for public comment. So if you'd like to comment on that, the period is now. But they also listed as one of the major concerns and challenges that we face in our area is the lack of indoor space and for recreation or for meeting space in general. So as Lisa said, Blake, myself, Lisa, and then 2 individuals who couldn't make it tonight, Megan Lawler and Katie Knockman, have come together. And together, we're a strong team of community-minded professionals who have come together to develop this vision. And I'd like to read that for you now. Our vision is to build facilities for year-round events and recreation, fostering youth athletics and community health and welfare in all seasons. So we'll give you a little preview of what we think our solution is. And this rendering was donated to us.
Oh, dang.
Oh, no.
Push pause.
Let's see if we can get back up here. Hopefully those online can see this as well.
That coming
No.
through? Yes.
It's not showing them.
Well, and we can always send you these materials that you can put on with your meeting minutes. So this rendering was donated to us by Epicos Land Planning and Architecture, which is the firm that Lisa Beck is with, and it's beautiful. So I'll let you talk about it.
Yeah, and we envision this space to be used by basically people of all ages. I mean, it can accommodate a ton, as you're going to see. We have partitions, so it can have baseball in it, soccer, lacrosse. We'll put a golf simulator in there, perhaps a climbing gym. You can play ultimate frisbee. Basically, lots of activities to keep our our community moving in all seasons. And really the uses can go beyond sports. I mean, think events, birthday parties, trade shows, banquets, band camps. We'll have some hoedowns in there, movie nights, family or corporate events. This is a big facility that can house a ton of people. And really, this is just the first phase, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But we believe this facility, this field house, will serve the greatest number of people for the most reasonable cost initially. But the phases beyond this and the possibilities beyond this are quite endless.
Absolutely. So we've developed a business model that allows the people who live here to benefit from the tourists who visit here.
And so our plan is kind of a multi-pronged approach to make this vision a reality. We envision a public-private partnership. Initially, we're looking for some land and financial partners, which, to be honest, we've actually found some, which is very encouraging for us as an organization. But we're not going to be reliant on donations entirely. We plan to create a community center district, and we've actually formed some of this. We formed a political action committee. We formed a nonprofit. We're in the process of basically putting together all the paperwork for the community center, which we're going to talk about. And we believe that, coupled with some other things, like, for example, some possibility for commercial activity, which can contribute to this facility as well, will basically build a long-term revenue stream that will essentially allow us to provide a solution for the recreation challenges that we faced in this community.
So one of the most exciting parts of this project as the county treasurer is that we're not planning to increase property taxes. We're looking at a very specific section of the Idaho Code, Title 67, Chapter 49, which is called auditorium districts. And I'm just going to read a little section out of the code. So it says an auditorium or community center district is one to build, operate, maintain, market, and manage for public, commercial, and or industrial purposes by any available means public auditoriums, exhibition halls, convention centers, sports arenas, and facilities of a similar nature. For the purpose, any such district shall have the power to construct, maintain, manage, market, and operate such facilities. So we are proposing to draw a district boundary, and we've got a graphic up here on the map, but essentially it's North Valley County. And within that boundary, you have the ability to impose up to a 5% travel and lodging tax. So this district will be built by our community for our community, which is really exciting. With that proposed district boundary, we have a very conservative financial estimate of about $1.5 million in annual revenue. And then the field house is just phase one of this. So, council members, as you were talking earlier about, making a plan and having a really good plan of action, you don't want to see it sit on a shelf for several years. And so as a group, we came together and we spent a lot of time delving into the needs of the community and what is that low-hanging fruit. And this field house, we think, provides the solution for what we can provide the community in the immediate future. So this plan demonstrates a benefit to the most amount of people right away, but that isn't where this has to stop. The community has other needs, such as recreation centers or commercial centers or aquatic centers or pickleball court. There's all sorts of things that could be incorporated at a later date and time. This one facility doesn't have to be the end of it. It can be a phased approach throughout the years to come for that board to decide what to do with it.
And we're not reinventing the wheel here. Chances are, if Idaho actually has 4 districts. There's one not listed here. Nampa just passed one recently on the November election. And but chances are, if you've been to any of these areas, you've probably seen these facilities. If you've been to Boise, that ice rink is part of this auditorium district, the whole Boise Center on the Grove. This one here in Idaho Falls is very interesting. That one is actually very similar to a facility that we're proposing as well. And so we're not reinventing the wheel, and it's something that has been accomplished in different jurisdictions throughout the state of Idaho. We've also just kind of done our homework. We've gone through and looked at other facilities. These are actually just 2 recent builds. There's obviously a lot more field houses across the United States, but these ones happen to be very recent. As you can see, the one on the left is a little bit smaller and it doesn't house as much. And then the one on the right is much more ambitious and is probably a little bit closer to what we are trying to accomplish. This one in Wisconsin is really, really interesting. We have studied it. We've had conversations with the folks that are running it. It's very interesting, and it's been an incredible value add to their community. And in a lot of ways, we feel like they're kind of the big brother that we're looking up to. And there's a lot of things and lessons that we can learn from what they have already accomplished.
Yeah, so in closing, we're here to answer any questions you might have. We're looking to begin a partnership and, to discuss with you how we can mutually benefit each other. These are listed on the screen are some of the things that we are looking for. But really, we just want to convey the message that, like Lisa said, we're here. We've put a lot of time and thought into this. We're ready to begin this process now. And we're welcome to answer any questions you might have.
Well, thanks. Thanks for being here in person. So, council, reactions or questions you might have? Well, let me start with you.
Again?
Number one, man.
Great. And as I understand this, the taxing district and the lodging accommodations like short-term rentals are exclusive of the ones in McCall. Is that correct? Or would we be taking the short-term rentals in McCall plus the short-term rentals in the district and adding an additional tax, lodging tax to them? What's the
Anywhere in the district.
Okay, and would the city of McCall would then be in the district?
Yes.
So it'd be all the short-term rentals in the city plus the district, the outline.
Plus the unincorporated areas in the county. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So one of the benefits of the approach that we're taking to this project is that we can do a lot of private fundraising and solicit donations on the private end to help fund these facilities and these phases. And you talk about this in the community and everyone gets so excited. And like Lisa said, this has been 35 years in the making. There's been multiple attempts to create a facility like this for us to use in our community. And part of the reasons why those other efforts had false starts or weren't seen through to completion is because they didn't have as robust a business plan as we have behind ours. The auditorium district, that public part of this, has some leeway in the amount of the local option tax that can be charged. And one of the really exciting things is that if we do our job and our goal is to go out and to fundraise a lot of money, we could essentially build the entire field house on donations and use the tax revenue for operating costs. And in that instance, it would not need to be a 5% tax. It would a 1% tax, a 0.5% tax. That rate can be variable depending on the financial needs of the district. So that's one of the beauties of this type of district and the facilities, and honestly, the community we live in. That's very gracious and has already promised donations to us that are blowing our minds on a daily basis.
And it's a lesson I think we've learned from other facilities like the Manchester Ice Rink, right? That's an incredible success for the city. And as a father that has a son that plays hockey, it's awesome that we have this beautiful facility right downtown. But as you guys probably know, that facility bled for about 20 years. And it was only after some creative, work by those, people behind the Manchester Ice Rink with the golf tournaments and all that they do during the summer, they were able to put together an endowment to cover those operational expenses. And so the great thing about this model is the revenue from the taxing basically is going to help us cover those operational expenses so we can keep this facility manageable and affordable for everyone that wants to use it.
Oh, yeah. So the other thing is we are able to finance off of the expected revenue of the district. So we could feasibly have a facility constructed and ready to use in our community in the very short term, because we don't have to wait for that money to collect in a bank account to fund the construction of this. So we can sell certificates of participation. You can, there's other financing methods that we can use to build this facility nearly at the beginning of the process, which is really exciting. So while my kids probably won't see the benefit to it, I hope, others in the community will.
Great. Anyone on council have any further questions?
I don't have any other questions. You answered mine about the percent yet. It looks like you don't know quite yet. Correct. Yeah. But, this is, I think the third time I've heard or talked to some of you on, on your team and everything. And it's great. You guys are really smart. So, there, like you said, it looks like you have a really good business plan. I think it definitely is a community need. I've had kids, school-age kids that have participated in soccer, use of soccer, and had practices at the Donnelly Bible Church and things like that. It's I think it's great, and I hope our city staff continues to work with you guys. I think it really complements a pros plan and takes a little pressure off of what we would do, for instance, in the Riverfront Park, where we were planning some sort of recreational facility. It takes a little pressure off of that in terms of the different interests, whether it's indoor soccer fields or playing fields, aquatic center, that kind of thing. So, I think that is a plus for the city in terms of giving us some more flexibility or providing an additional interest or need that the community has that you will have filled that one need, or hopefully. I mean, I don't know how big the space you would need to have everybody be happy with getting enough practice space, but no, I think it's great. I think it'll I'm excited to see you guys moving forward, and I really hope I hope you can do this as quickly as possible, and I think the community would be a great benefit to all of us.
Thank you. I will just make a comment. You mentioned the Riverfront Park and the future development plans for that area. The auditorium district can spend money on facilities within its district boundaries. So if we choose to build a field house in one location, that doesn't limit the revenue from the taxing district going only to that one location. Partnerships with cities and other organizations could allow funding to be directed in other places as well. So it could be more than just, taking some of the need out of your space there. It could potentially contribute to the development of it in the future as well.
Okay, so do the 5% then.
You're right. Whatever we need to get that built up.
Mike, any comments you'd like to make?
Sorry, I am obviously out of town. Thank you for the presentation. It all sounds great to me, and appreciate you guys reaching out and filling us all in. And I am on board and in favor, and it's part of what our pros plan has been calling for, and a lot of people have been calling for. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Colby?
Yeah, thank you guys for your time and effort in this. It's no small task, so keep up the good work. Forward to see what you continue to put out.
And I'll just, as a closing comment, wanted to thank the three of you for being here tonight. We're probably as excited as you are about these opportunities, and I'm really glad that Kurt's adding value, as are other staff members. For sure. So please stay involved with our city staff and Parks and Rec, and city staff in general. And thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We wish you well.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
So Aaron, at this point, we're going to move into your presentation.
Mayor Bob, we did have an action item in there just to document, before staffs met with this group a couple of times, but before we invested too much of our city time, we wanted to get this presentation done and get the council's blessing to continue to work with them. So we just wanted to kind of treat that as a formality and make sure. So if we could get an action
to make a motion, then
that would be great.
Okay.
If it's appropriate, I don't know. I defer to legal on that.
You noted as an action item?
Yep.
Okay, so then we're good to go.
And I'll move, we allow staff to provide input to the to the Mountain Community Center District team.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion has been made and seconded for to allow our staff to provide input to the Mountain Community Center District team. May I have a roll call vote on that motion, please?
Councilmember Thrower,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Mayor Giles,
Yes.
Councilmember Machesik,
Yes.
Councilmember Nielsen.
Yes.
Okay. That motion carries. Thank you, Kurt.
Yep, you bet. Thank you.
Thank you, team.
Thank you, guys.
All right, our next topic is reflections, our annual report, council priority check-in. And Erin's going to update us on our progress on this.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. Erin Greaves, Communications. I'm going to spare you a PowerPoint tonight. You've had a few. Just going to clarify a couple of highlight points. As we've done in the previous years, if you have any major, this was presented to you as a draft. First off, we have already received a few edits from our staff, so I expect to finish those up. But typically when I present this to you as a draft, I ask you to look through it. If you have anything you want to see added, anything that any changes you'd like to see, please feel free to reach out to me and email me and let me know what those are, and I'll make sure that they happen for you. In particular, tonight, I'm going to focus on a couple of the highlights, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about your council priorities as they're displayed to make sure that they're okay with you. So first, I just wanted to thank our staff. They work really hard to put all of this information together every year. And I want to note a couple of major accomplishments that were listed in the document. Of course, number one was our $16.5 million bond that approved almost an 80% voter approval rating this year, which ensures, improvements to our drinking water, fire protection capacity, and our system reliability. We also made a lot of progress on our transportation, streets, and facility upgrades. Our housing and growth management portion contracted Adrian Quinn this year to help us lead some housing efforts. Of course, we've used the Toaster as a recruitment tool for our new hires. And we've entitled 32 local housing units and 38 employer-provided housing units with partnerships throughout the community. We've also evaluated and updated our deed restriction incentive programs through our Community and Economic Development Department. We did some environmental and sustainability initiatives this year that included launching, of course, as you know, the climate action process, the Rooted in Resilience. And we've also introduced a community composting pilot program with Riverfront Park and conducted data analysis that you also saw tonight of our EV transition plan proposal. We also, lots of fun accomplishments, and again, many, many more throughout the document. Our library grand opening, part 1 and part 2, chapter 1, chapter 2 happened with beautiful expanded resources and services of which we're sitting in right now. And our police department hosted a second annual national night out to strengthen their public safety partnerships. There were some challenges in 2024 highlighted throughout the document. Some of them included, of course, our continued housing crisis, making it difficult to retain city staff and to hire. Infrastructure funding with limited FAA funds to support street maintenance and airport projects at our airport. Again, we struggle with staffing issues in key positions like our GIS, which I believe we are hiring now, so that's looking good. Our engineering and our water management systems. So we continue to build our efforts for recruitment. And of course, increased public demand, more visitors, more residents. They require of us extended services and maintenance, and your staff has never been busier. So we look to you and thank you for your support throughout 2024. I wanted to focus on the council priorities. In the last retreat that we had with you, we collected your information and we put that together in the document, focusing on impact area and annexation with a few key elements underneath that topic. The strategic and budgetary development, environmental management pieces, as well as transportation and infrastructure and growth and housing management. And then the community engagement partnerships, where we host meetings with key stakeholders and build goodwill with nonprofit agencies. I want to make sure that we capture that appropriately for you. I understand that that's a heavy lift right now, so feel free to take time to look through that and let myself and our city manager Forrest know if you want to make any tweaks or changes to those council priorities, or if we didn't translate them well since our last meeting to discuss them. And then most importantly tonight, I wanted to check in with you as we approach the spring season budget season, we wanted to know if you would like us to arrange a mini retreat or council work session where you could revisit some of these priorities as they might relate to your budget planning process this summer. So I'll leave you with that. I'd love to hear back from you if you'd like us to plan that event or the mini retreat or work session for you. Open for comments.
Okay. Council, so you're asking us to dive into this a little deeper and let Forrest know if we want this on a future agenda to formalize or make edits on?
I don't think we'll need to come back as a future. What we've done in the past is we've made those edits for you as you've wished. If council would like us to, though, I'm happy to bring it back to you. Typically, what we've done is major changes as requested and then posted that and sent it to you before I published it. And then as far as the work session, we've looked to Bessie Jo to help us work in what would work best in your schedule before the budget process if you decide to do a work session.
Okay, so sounds like two questions. Does anyone have anything tonight that you'd like to pass on for changes, or would you like to spend a week looking at it carefully and then getting back to you, right, Erin?
Yes.
I don't have anything, but I need a deadline for getting changes.
Certainly. I would love to see them within the next 2 weeks so I can get it published for your public. Thank you.
I have a couple comments. One is fabulous. It is an incredible piece of work with obviously a lot of input and really well captured in my mind. My second comment is both to you and Meredith. When I look at the goal setting and I see the impact area comments and environmental management, I just think those are good things that our consultants on the Rooted in Resilience refer to as when they capture the council's priorities. They're really well captured here. And I think they need to use perhaps that as kind of a guidance to it. Yeah, okay, thank you.
All right, anything else any council member would like to add before we move on to the next topic?
The second question about another
well,
work session. I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, it was a request by some of you in the retreat for you to have a little deeper dive into how your priorities might imply your budget planning process, in particular for your city manager who will be working through a new budget process. So would you like Bessie Jo to work on a date that might work for you for that?
Yep. Me too.
Okay,
Yes,
wonderful.
please.
Yep, me too.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you,
In the
guys.
sky.
Just an agreement on that. Thanks for remembering that.
Anything else I can do for council tonight about the annual report?
Good work. on
Great.
that.
Thank you. Enjoy your evening.
Okay, next up, a request to adopt resolution 25-07. This is our new and improved version of expanded and modified local housing incentive program. So I see Michelle on the left and I see Adrian on the right of our screen, and wanted to welcome you both. We're excited to get to this stage. I know we've had several touches and a lot of input and workshops to help define what this should look like. So with that, Michelle and Adrian, would you take over and give us the highlights, and then we'll get into the recommended action of adopting this resolution.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Bob. Adrian is on this meeting as well, but I'll go ahead and first just provide an overview and just high level kind of what this resolution is. And then if you have specific questions, we'll be happy to answer those. So first off, just as a reminder, the City Council adopted a resolution in 2019. That was our first effort in creating a local housing incentive program. After 5 years, we decided to do an evaluation of the program. And so Adrian has been our consultant and has really helped us in the development of both the evaluation as well as the development of this new resolution. So we presented that information first of the evaluation in November. And then we held a 2-hour work session in which we got a lot of really good feedback. And I think the council had some really good discussion about the existing program in a modified and expanded program. So what is in front of you tonight is a resolution, and I did notice there is one edit that needs to be made, but what it is, it's an expanded and modified program. And what this resolution would do is it would replace your previously adopted resolution 1902. I think in the title it says 1002. So we can make that edit. So basically the resolution has all the whereas statements, which gives the justification and the history of why we do these kinds of programs. And then Exhibit 1 is really kind of a better organized way of explaining the program. So it has a purpose statement. And the purpose really of the program has not changed since 2019. But as I mentioned in previous work sessions, is that, you know, after working with the program for 5 years, you start realizing what works and what doesn't work. And so this resolution, or this exhibit within the resolution, has an expanded list of definitions. And so some of the conversations that the city council had about, you know, what is a local senior are included there. So we have, you know, a person who has lived in McCall area for a minimum of 10 years. Based, again, a lot of these were just based on comments that we got from all of you. We also, there's the general requirements of the incentive program. And so again, that hasn't changed significantly. And we did add some provisions in this version of the program that give staff a little bit more flexibility in the administration, as long as the project is meeting the goals of the local housing program, incentive program. One of the big changes from the old program is basically adding another tier of incentives. So we're building off the existing program of $10,000 per local housing deed restriction. And then we're adding a second tier that relates to income qualification and affordability. So again, the resolution just breaks out the difference between the rental program and the home ownership program. And lastly, in this resolution, it basically talks about the administration. So in the past, we've brought every deed restriction to you, which I think moving forward, we want to be able to be more responsive. Hopefully we're going to get more of these. But we think it's important to be accountable to you in terms of understanding what's happening and how many deed restrictions you're getting. So rather than bringing the actual deed restriction each time, we're basically going to have a monthly progress report for the council. The deed restrictions generally don't change. They're sort of a template. So that's sort of an extra level of administration, and sometimes we might need to act a little faster than that. And again, you know, I think moving forward and working with some existing projects that are sort of in our pipeline, we recognize that it's sort of a one-size-fits-all of this program it can be challenging, especially with sort of like the employer-provided housing, where these employers are wanting to tie rental rates to percentage of income, which is pretty standard. And so again, the point of this resolution is to establish the framework of the program. There will be supporting documents on actual administration and sort of policies and procedures that we can more easily update as we work with this program again moving forward. But we're excited about being able to add more incentive and being able to sort of, I think, strengthen our existing program. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and Adrian's also here to either add anything or answer any questions.
Well, thank you both for getting us to this stage, and thanks for reviewing kind of our past history on this. Really helpful. We've had several touches, as I call it, several meetings, workshops. I think we're in good shape. So I'm going to ask council if they have any last questions before I call for a motion.
I do have. And one is just a question of a term. And I'm looking if perhaps the at one place, we meant to say developer or homeowner. And if you're looking at the document, I'm looking at, in our document, it's page 208, but item 6 in the,
Is it the resolution or are you looking at the exhibit?
at the exhibit.
Okay.
So we go to item 6.
Item 6.
Okay, and go to A and I, first item, 1, under A1. And it says the homeowner will receive $10,000 for reimbursable development costs. And I think that word homeowner should be developer.
Councilmember Lyle, I think that you're right. It should probably be homeowner and developer.
Okay, if you would look at that, I don't know if that would imply the homeowner will receive $10,000 or the developer will receive. Anyhow, that to me, I think needs a clarification. And then that carries forth also on the BI in the incentive with the affordable option, the homeowner will receive $20,000 for reimbursable development costs. Seems to me like that word should be the developer.
That's in section B, part I.
Yeah.
Okay.
Both of those.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. Adrian, isn't part of the intent here is that the purchaser of the home actually benefits from this incentive? And so having the homeowner listed was part of the reason for that?
Yes. Then it's applies to the homeowner should receive the benefit. If it could be a condo complex, in which case it would be the developer that receives the incentive payment, because the developer then would be selling the condo with these restrictions and presumably be selling it at below market rate price with the affordability component.
I think part of the reason for my question is if the intent is that this helps drive down there's a couple of items. One is, does it help lower the cost for the purchaser? The second item is that they are agreeing to restrict its use in the future. And so the $10,000 or $20,000 helps buy that part of it. Again, the $10,000, there's no affordability option. The $20,000 does have the affordability option. So they're, I guess what I would say to the council is you could put homeowner / developer in the first item, and maybe even in the second item under A and B both,
Well, I mean,
as necessary to, and then the staff rules that would be written with regard to how the program actually works to take into account that part of it. Or we can always, if you adopt this, we can always tweak that language and bring back another one.
the $10,000 or $20,000 incentive that is the reimbursable development cost, right? I mean, that's what it's supposed to be applied for. So, I mean, it's a different developer, and then he sells it, and then the homeowner were to get the incentive. I mean, the homeowner doesn't have any further development costs.
Correct. It's whomever is seeking the land use approvals. It receives, as Councilmember Julie said, it's whoever is seeking the land use approvals gets the reimbursement for it. So, for example, if it's somebody developing a condo, then the buyer, the homeowner, will get the benefit of either getting it as a local or getting a reduced price. So they also receive a benefit. But the entity or person that receives the reimbursement is whoever is seeking the permit and land use approvals. And so it could vary. It could be if it's single.
Be an applicant.
Well, if the homeowner is the developer, it's like a single house.
Yes.
Let's say they will do it. But if it's a subdivision, you've got a developer that owns all the homes that will eventually sell to different people. So
Yeah, I was going to say, I would suggest going back to sort of Bill Nichols' comment that I think just putting in developer / homeowner, because you may have a homeowner who, you know, builds an ADU and decides to deed restrict it, for example. And so they might not consider themselves a developer. But I think the point is that like these deed restrictions or restrictive covenants, they occur at the time of construction for reimbursement. And then that is in place in perpetuity. So it's really kind of a one-time transaction. So I think if we call it developer / homeowner, that captures probably multiple scenarios.
So I guess, Mr. Mayor,
Yeah,
Michelle and Adrian, would it be better to bring this back the next meeting with that language in it?
I don't think that that's a substantial change. I think we could make that modification if it's reflected in the motion.
so wherever it uses the word homeowner in this exhibit 1, we would ask you to change it to developer / homeowner. Is that correct, Michelle?
Not every.
Yeah, where it applies, yeah.
Where it applies. And I think it's just those 2 places that I think it
Yeah.
applies.
well, and I think section 3, but we could finish with that. But there's an issue, I think, with section 3 with that whole homeowner developer issue as well. But I'll wait for that until we're done with section 6.
I mean, it's something that could be in the definitions.
Okay, Julie, what was your other catch? Section 3?
Yeah, so section 3 for where it's a homeowner, so it says housing occupant must meet the eligibility criteria at the time of recording the local housing covenant if a homeowner. So I think there's that issue again where you have a developer that may not meet the eligibility criteria because he or she's just developing, a subdivision, wants to deed restrict, and then that homeowner that's purchasing it will have to meet that eligibility criteria. But here it says that, we wouldn't be able to record the covenant until there was an eligible homeowner. Does that make sense? I think it kind of.
We're looking at part 3, general requirements, under B. Is that correct?
Yeah, B.
So
Adrian, do you want to
Yes.
add anything to that? Because and explain like the reasoning behind B.
I think I understand what Councilmember Julie is saying, which is that if somebody is intending it, let's see, that there could be a circumstance where there's a developer of a subdivision, and they won't have sold the homes yet, but they will intend to sell the home with this restriction on it, but they want the reimbursement in order to sell the home, and so it's a sequencing issue, and so the change there. Let's see, part of the rationale. Well, I'm thinking out loud here because the rationale for that, council member, was to ensure that the person who was purchasing the home, if they were a homeowner, met the requirements, and so there was not additional requirements. So the covenants is recorded, and then the developer files some additional documentation. It would just be that there would be a delay on the reimbursement until they're selling the home to somebody who qualifies as either a local or under the income restriction.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. I mean, it could work. It just seems like it gives, it gives the developer sort of the flexibility, I suppose, of if he can't get a homeowner that, I mean, he could decide, well, I'm not getting the price that I want, so I don't want the $20,000. I'm just going to go ahead and sell it and forget about the deed restricting, when he goes to sell it, because it doesn't have to be recorded until he gets that person with the eligibility, until he sells it. I mean, it'll still work. It just sort of doesn't lock the developer in prior to selling the house when, the developer's here in front of council saying, hey, I'm going to deed restrict 5 of these units. If those don't get recorded before he sells and he decides that, well, I'm not getting the price I want, I'm not going to, worry about getting the reimbursement. I'm just going to sell it for, 50% more and walk away, And so, I mean, I guess, language wise, yeah, it works. It just sort of, like I said, the way that it works wouldn't lock in the developer to deed restricting what he promised to do.
I think would be pertinent. I mean, in the CUP process, but then the conditions.
Yeah, I suppose, right. If it's conditions of approval, make sure that those are.
Yeah, I was going to add if it's part of like a land use process, what we've done to date is identify the number of local housing units related, and then we don't do the recordation because sometimes we have to know what the development costs are for either the sales price or the rental price. So at the point of when that's actually recorded is when that developer or homeowner gets the incentive or the reimbursement piece. So that's how that works. Okay. I thought B was really about in order, you have to meet the eligibility requirements when you're leasing, or when we're recording that deed restriction, if you're the homeowner. And that gets at what we've talked about a little bit at the work session, is that we want there's not going to be that many for sale units, but we want local people as opposed to investors purchasing them. So we have owner occupied local housing for those for sale units versus an investor comes in and then rents it to a local. And so being able to create those opportunities for people to get into our local housing ownership market, I think is, for me, that's sort of what I get out of B as well. And we also talked about, I think at the work session, if, you qualify and, in 10 years, you get a number of promotions and you now own the unit, but it was at the time that you were either your lease, obviously leases change usually annually, but it was at the time of purchase. So nobody's going to kick you out of your house.
Yeah, no, and I think Colby, thanks for bringing up a point. I think through the CUP process that to comply with the conditional use permit that they're given, they would have to maintain those units that they said were going to be deed restricted as deed restricted. So yeah, that takes care of my issue. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Bill, you good with all that?
Yes.
Okay, I have one more.
Yep.
And it's just a question. It refers to item 4, that the city staff shall have the authority to modify any of the provisions in section 5 and 6. And we just had a really good discussion why it's necessary. You can't foresee perhaps all the things, but my question is this. Does that put you in a rather difficult spot at times, or would it be, say, you have the power to do that subject to city council approval? And I'm just thinking of, you have the authority to set the initial sales price and some other things that people are going to try and I don't know, beat you up isn't the right thing, but it puts you at, I could see where you could get in some difficult relationships or agreements with developers who you'd like to say, I don't have that authority just to do what you want. It's just a question. I have total trust, and I think to implement the program but as its intent. I'm just asking that question.
Yeah, and that's really been staff's approach all along. A lot of these projects, are linked to subdivisions or planned unit developments, or in the case of apartments, sometimes just design review. So we have the ability to always take it to the council if it's a modification. What we wanted to do is just give us some flexibility. So especially with the income qualifications, we may see projects where they're still income qualifying based on a percentage of income, but maybe not a certain AMI. So being able to flex the program in that sort of way. If it's obviously a major deviation, I think, of our sort of approved template, we would definitely bring that back to council, because I don't think we would probably feel comfortable. We wouldn't feel comfortable administering something different. So I think the intent there is just to provide some flexibility. So when we start seeing some of these projects that aren't a one size fits all, but they're still accomplishing that goal, that we have a little bit of flexibility to work with them. And like I said, I think a lot of these you'll end up seeing anyways. And it'll be part of your approval process when it's related to land use.
You good with that, Lyle?
Yeah.
Council, you good with that explanation? Mike, are you good with what you've heard?
I am.
Okay, thank you. So let me see if I can capture where we're at. Then I believe there are some suggested edits by staff and council and legal here about Homeownership Incentive Program Part 6 in both A and B, where it uses the word homeowner. We would provide the edit to say developer / homeowner. Is that?
In A1, AI and BI.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Gill, in those specific areas. So would someone like to make a motion? And the other edit is the number of the replacement. So the first resolution came out in the year 2019, so it's called 19-02 instead of 10-02. That's in our recommended action. You'll see that language. So we would need to, when we get to the words replacing resolution, it would be 19-02, and then talk about the edits that Bessie Jo helped me summarize.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
Thank you, Julie.
I move we adopt a resolution 25-07, amended in section 6A1 and 6B1 as discussed, providing for an expanded and modified local housing incentive program, replacing resolution 19-02 and authorizing the mayor to sign all necessary.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Colby. Thanks, Julie, for pulling that together correctly. So a motion has been made and seconded to adopt resolution 25-07. And Julie, help me with the language there. With the edits.
As amended in section 6A1 and 6B1.
Thank you. Providing for an expanded and modified local housing incentive program, replacing resolution 19-02 and authorizing the mayor to sign all necessary documents. May I have a roll call vote on the motion?
Councilmember Thrower,
Yes.
Councilmember Nielsen,
Yes.
Mayor Giles,
Yes.
Councilmember Machesik,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes. Thank you, council. That motion carries. Adrian, Michelle, thanks very much for explaining all that.
Great, thank you.
All righty. So next up is a quit claim deed to facilitate the vacation of a portion of Dawson Avenue north of Hemlock Street. And Meredith Todd will be here leading us through this discussion.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Bob, and members of the council. Meredith Todd, City Planner and Sustainability Planner. What you have before you today is an incomplete history project. So this council previously acted on this request to vacate a 20-foot section of Dawson Avenue on January 8th of 1998. The initial application was to the Planning and Zoning Commission to vacate a segment of Dawson Avenue north of Hemlock, along with the other properties on Dawson Avenue on the same side of the road, so that property lines would perhaps not go through existing houses. So at that time in 1997 and 1998, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the vacation as requested by the Freelon family at the time. It was recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission with findings and conclusions sent on to McCall City Council. In January of 98, the McCall City Council voted to approve the request for the vacation of a 20-foot segment of Dawson Avenue. And then something happened in 1998 where we didn't get the quitclaim deed part finished. I don't know if we just never created the exhibit for the legal description of area to be vacated, but we found out in the last year or so, Brian Parker was notified that there was a cloud on the title from a transaction in 2004 when the Freelands sold the property to the new owners, who are the Stingleys or Stingleys, at which time the county assessor, Brian Parker, myself, Bill Nichols, John Russell, the surveyor extraordinaire, figured out where is the missing piece here, and it was determined that the actual deed of the 20-foot segment of right-of-way in front of specifically the previously known as Freeland parcel still needed to be deeded from the city to the Freelands. So what we have in this wonderful packet before you is the history stretching from the city council minutes approving this vacation and the associated findings from planning and zoning to the application materials themselves with numerous exhibits. Page 222 is the planning and zoning minutes from 1997 that go into a bit of detail of the vacation of the neighboring properties that has been properly completed. And then finally on page 240, we have the drafted quitclaim deed to authorize the transfer of the property from the city of McCall to now the Stingleys, the current owners of the adjacent property, as well as exhibits A and B. Exhibit A is the legal description for the area to be vacated. And then exhibit B that will need one little revision prior to recordation is an exhibit, visually a map of the area to be vacated, and trying to make sure that we get the 10-foot snow storage easement that was originally requested in 1998. It looks like Mr. Russell shows only 10 feet of the 20 feet that have actually been vacated to be vacated. So we would need to change the word within the hashed section of his exhibit on exhibit B to say easement portion, not vacated portion.
So do we need to edit this?
Yes, and I have a revised motion I can read off for you if you would like.
Okay. All right. But the good news is our surveyor, Mr. Russell, did all this work in the calendar year 2025. It's the most recent. And this is simply an attempt to make good on previous decisions that were made back in the late 90s. Okay.
And Bill and I really looked for a reason why this didn't get done in 98, and we really couldn't find a single one.
Yeah.
And in defense of the prior council, there was, I think there may have been a feeling at the time if you just recorded the ordinance that vacated that was good enough. And more recently, we've been asked to provide quitclaim deeds. So, and they may have done all they were asked to do.
Right. Thanks for that background. Council, any questions for either legal or for Meredith?
None for me.
None for me. Okay.
Would you like me to read off that revised motion
So
for you?
I would very much like you to read that off.
Okay.
Just comment on it.
Okay.
It's interesting seeing a lot of names from the past in there.
Yeah. Okay, we're all ears, Meredith.
Okay, so your revised motion would be to approve the quitclaim deed to facilitate the vacation of a portion of Dawson Avenue north of Hemlock Street, subject to the revision to Exhibit B to reflect the full vacated area of 20 feet and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents.
So moved.
So we need to capture that and actually have that motion made by a member of council.
And I'll second that. And then, oh, you want it to be made. I'll remind you, Mayor Bott, that you don't have to repeat the motion.
Okay. I move we approve the quitclaim deed to facilitate the vacation of a portion of Dawson Avenue north of Hemlock Street, subject to the revision to Exhibit B to reflect the full vacated area of 20 feet and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents.
Second.
Okay.
Okay. Trustee Joe, may we have a roll call vote on that motion?
Yes, Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Thrower,
Yes.
Mayor Giles,
Yes.
Councilmember Machezik,
Yes.
Councilmember Nielsen.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries, and thanks for helping us get through that.
Thanks, Mayor Bob.
Get everything approved. All right, next up is some happy news about our rebidding and being able to be in a position to award the Mission Street project from Idaho Street to State Highway 55. Thanks for joining us tonight, and it is happy news.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor Giles, City Council, Nathan Stewart, Public Works Director. So as you mentioned, this was our rebid of our Mission Street project. It was originally planned a few years ago, supposed to be in 2023. And as you're aware, we were planning to do it this year. So the rebid process, I think, was very successful. We had most of the original bidders. There was one that did not rebid, but I don't think they were very serious about the project. So the bid results came in very similar to the original, and the low responsive bidder turned out to be the same low bidder we had before, and their bid documents were compliant with our rules and state statutes. So happy to answer any questions about the project. We didn't talk too much about that last time. But we are very excited to see the price of the low bid. It's significantly less than the engineer's estimate, which was based on values we used for the Davis Street project and some of the previous projects we had. So this is a clear indication that there's new competition in Valley County, and that's good for the taxpayer. So my recommendation is that we award this contract to K2 Excavation as written. Happy to answer any questions.
Is there any edits we need in our motion on this?
No, sir.
Great. Well, great work. Council, ready to proceed, or do you have any questions before I call for a motion?
Ready.
Okay. All right, I'll call for the motion to award the Mission Street.
I move we award the Mission Street Crabs, Idaho to State Highway 55 construction contract to K2 Excavation, Inc. in the amount of $619,897.90. Authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents and authorize staff to manage change orders up to 10% of the contract amount.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Lyle. Thank you, Julie. Okay, that motion's been made and seconded. Trustee Joe, I'll call for a roll call vote on this motion.
Councilmember Thrower,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Mayor Giles,
Yes.
Councilmember Machezik,
Yes.
Councilmember Nielsen.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries.
And I'd like to point out that you actually wrote out the dollar.
I did.
amount, so it was a little
Yeah.
faster to.
Yeah, I took note of that. So sometimes I fear I add errors in there when I do that, but I think it's helpful. So, and obviously it is. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nathan. Okay, let's see. Next up, McCall Redevelopment Agency, a member appointment. And Daryl Richards is here tonight with us. Michelle, are you leading that discussion? This is
I am.
for urban development, right?
Correct. McCall Redevelopment Agency is their formal name.
MRA. Okay, thanks. Take it away.
Yeah. Good evening, Mayor, Council, Michelle Grunewald, Community and Economic Development Director. The item in front of you tonight is an appointment for one of the vacancies that we've actually had for quite some time on MRA. Daryl Richards submitted a letter of interest and resume. He's attended several MRA meetings, and the board has talked with him pretty extensively about his experience and his interest in the board and motivations. At their last meeting on February 11th, they formally voted to recommend him to be appointed by the McCall City Council. And I asked him to attend in case the City Council has any questions for him or would like to meet him. But he is interested and brings a lot of really good, I think, past professional experience to the board.
We all agree on that, and I'd like to compliment Daryl for sitting through our entire meeting and being a patient man. And your resume and credentials sound wonderful, and thank you for stepping up and offering to serve. Council, anything you'd like to say before I call for a motion to appoint?
Does Mike have anything to say as the chair of MRA?
Mike, that's a good point. Colby reminded me you are the chair of MRA. Anything you'd like to say before I call for the motion?
I don't think so. I think we're pleased to welcome Daryl to the Redevelopment Agency Board.
Thank you. And on behalf of all the council, we feel that way, and as you'll hear in just a minute. So I'm going to call for an approval of the appointment of Daryl Richards to the McCall Redevelopment Agency.
I move we approve the appointment of Daryl Richards to the McCall Redevelopment Agency for a term of expiring in March 2028 and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents.
Second.
Thank you, Colby. Thank you for making that motion, Lyle. Motion has been made and seconded. May I have a roll call vote on this motion?
Councilmember Nelson?
Yes.
Councilmember Nielsen?
Yes.
Mayor Giles?
Yes.
Councilmember Machezik?
Yes.
Councilmember Thrower?
Yes.
Daryl, congratulations. We look forward to having you add value, and thank you for being here all night with us.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it. Look forward to your service, and I'm sure you'll add a lot of good value. All right, next up, we have 3 members to appoint on the Local Option Tax Commission. And I believe, Bessie Jo, you're going to help us with that?
Yes, sir. Mayor, Council, Bessie Jo Wagner, City Clerk. We have 2 vacancies and then a reappointment for the Local Option Tax Commission. Claire Bowman and Matt Stebbins have submitted letters of interest to serve as the committee member portion of that committee, and then Tony Curtis would like to be reappointed as the business owner. We did advertise it for a couple weeks, and we then had to do some. Amanda did some reaching out to folks as we did not get much interest. So we were very pleased that we were able to fill all 3 seats. So Todd McKenna is not continuing, and
David Petty.
No, Dave Petty is the gentleman that does the sled dog races. So sorry, just went right out of my head. Are not able to or don't want to continue, so their terms are up.
Okay. And the recommended action lists all those 3 names, so no edits needed there. I'll call for a motion.
I move we approve Claire Bowman, Matt Stebbins, and Tony Curtis to serve 4-year terms on the Local Option Tax Commission beginning in March 2025 and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents.
Thanks, Julie. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Colby. All right, a motion's been made and seconded. May I have a roll call vote on this motion?
Councilmember Thrower,
Yes.
Councilmember Nielsen,
Yes.
Mayor Giles,
Yes.
Councilmember Machesik,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. I think we're on to upcoming meeting schedule.
yes, Craig Vroom is the other
Yeah.
member.
That's what I thought.
But that's
Yeah,
not
Craig
need
Root,
to
yeah.
continue, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we have some updates to the upcoming meeting schedule. Let me pull that up here real quick. That you have a meeting tomorrow here at 9 a.m.
A quick one on the tomorrow's meeting. I have another obligation at 10 o'clock, so I'm not sure how long that conversation is going to be, but I will be needing to leave right before 10.
Right before 10? Okay.
There's any.
So the first part of tomorrow's meeting is the ramp fees, and then it says and concession use permits for lakefront properties. Are those kind of combined? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Kurt will be presenting those.
So maybe someone could let Kurt know, as much as we can get packed into that first hour as possible. That'd be great for Colby leaves.
All right, and then just a reminder about your March 10th meeting concerning the area of impact, and that's here again, and that will be at 3 o'clock. On March 13th, we have a request for a proclamation in support of military caregivers, and it is requested by Dana Partridge, and she is a member of the Idaho Daughter of American Revolution. And they're asking that military caregivers are identified as hidden heroes and are requesting a proclamation. So I wanted to ask this council if you would like to bring such proclamation. I could bring it at the 13th meeting.
Okay, and then we'll go to the second one. Then let's go to that one first. Any questions about that, or would you like to see that proclamation brought back to us?
Is that consent agenda item?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's good to put in the consent agenda.
Well, they did ask that if you guys would be doing it, that they would like to have a member present, but we do generally do those on the consent agenda.
So should we put it on a meeting that's not fully booked if they want to?
Yeah, we can push it to another one. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the other request was a proclamation supporting the Medicaid expansion. I guess it's under review at the state level.
The what expansion?
Medicaid.
Oh.
That would be they're asking us to support maintaining
The Medicaid
yeah.
expansion, yes. And it would be a proclamation. And you guys did one a few years ago when they were establishing the Medicaid expansion.
So this is something going on in the legislature, apparently.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's entirely up to you all if you would like to entertain that or not.
Council?
I have comments, get noticed in the newspaper, every medical provider here signed, a petition per se that would include that. I think it has major effects on the hospital here. and much more so for Cascade Medical Center. It would be much more dependent on that funding source. So I think us having those facilities that service our people, and I know it's politically sensitive, the way it's written is to approve a set of criteria for it to be continued. And that set of criteria is very difficult. It's unlikely to meet those criteria. So it's really the bill before the legislature. There's a feeling that it's really meant to terminate that provision to people. And we have a lot of people in our county, an exceptional amount, I would think, more so than the average, that are dependent upon that to provide their health care funding. So that's for me, I'm supportive of the council. I'm not saying that's everybody's opinion.
And their request also was a proclamation?
Yes.
Okay. Julie, what's your thoughts on that?
Anyway, first thought was kind of, well, it is a state issue thing. I'm not sure we need to get into that, although as far as the legislature is concerned, what are they going to say? Like, hey, you can't do proclamations anymore. But I mean, you know, I think Lyle's point that it does affect a lot of our community members. I'm okay with doing that.
Colby?
Sure.
I'd be fine with that. Mike, what's your opinion? Would you be okay with a proclamation for the saying
You bet.
Supporting Medicaid.
You bet. And thanks for the details, Lyle.
Okay. I think we're on board on both of those.
Okay, great. And then on March 17th, we have the high school speeches that they do twice a year. And so it would be here. They would come and stand here and present to you guys. So if you are available, it's at 1:20 on March 17th, and then on March 18th, it's at 9:30, and then at 1:20. And again, they would all be here. Put that on your calendars. And then there was some question briefly at our last meeting on whether or not we would have a quorum on March 27th. I will not be here. You will not be here. One.
I'll be available.
You'll be available, okay? March 27th is in the middle of spring break.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. We have made our plans, but likely be gone.
I would say there's a high likelihood that you may not be here, but I could potentially attend remotely. I don't know.
No, no.
Yeah, I couldn't say right now.
I would think I could attend remotely also.
Okay. I could, basically I can have, Meredith has said that she could move her two land use items to the first meeting in April, and then we could keep everything else just pay the bills and
basic stuff. Yeah.
Basic stuff. Yeah.
Could just get back to you.
Yes. Please let me know by. So that would be. Yeah, it's a month from now. So yeah, within the next 2 weeks.
So I'm good. Mike said he's good.
And then the three of them are. Julie's out, and then Lyle, are you sure you can attend remotely?
I'd be quite confident I could, but I'll send you a notice in a day or two.
Okay, perfect.
Great, thank you.
I have no idea.
Okay.
You haven't been told what you're gonna do yet? I haven't been told what I'm gonna do yet either.
I don't.
Yeah, that's the thing. I could potentially attend remotely, but I don't want the meeting to hinge on me doing that, you know.
Right.
I'd rather just say I can't.
Okay.
Okay. And I think those were the big highlights for everybody.
Thing to add, maybe in the vein of the proclamation, of maybe potentially sending a letter to the big orange man in DC about the importance of the federal workers in our community and what a negative impact DOGE is having on our community and the potential huge negative impact that it could have if people lose their jobs long term. I mean, we have to show some support to that community because they're the critical part of our. It's absolutely out of control.
There was a really good article in the Star News about the Winter Rec Forum's recommendation, like where you can snowmobile and where you shouldn't. And they had a very factual write-up on 2 snow rangers that apparently been laid off or fired.
But I mean, it affects beyond, it's part of our economy. We're a recreation-driven economy.
Yeah.
And that has a broader impact on our whole community, not just, the individual families who are suffering. It's going to affect our economy.
So would that be best as a proclamation or maybe a letter to the governor and the president and Congress? Sure, the best format, but yeah, it's a big deal for us.
We'll sign it with a big middle finger.
I think we can put to that it will affect the Forest Service's ability to manage the forest to reduce fire risk.
Yeah.
Yep.
I agree, and I think it should go to the governor too. We seem just to be rubber stamping in the state. Trump wants us to have school vouchers. We have school vouchers. I think it should go to both.
Okay. Julie, you think you could help for us with that?
Sure. You want it?
Yeah, I mean, it could go to the federal, it could go to the executive branch, it could go to the congressional people that represent us, it could go to the governor.
Yeah.
It could go to the new head of the Forest Service who they just confirmed. So,
yeah. Well, I think that's, like you said, we are very much dependent on people administering those programs and helping us.
Being operational areas open and safe, because if downhill, backcountry skiers running into snowmobilers, it's not a good thing.
For setting off avalanches, yeah.
Starting a forest on fire in the summer.
I'm a little bit, I think the tone, I'm a little bit of not only what happened, but how it happened. And I don't know, that's now you're playing, let's get into a little bit of the politics of it, but, the sense of just a lack of human compassion. So when we write that up my mind, I'd be comfortable getting just not flaming on that, but into the aspect that cost a lot of it's just so disruptive that it's disturbing to people and bad for public health and bad however we want to word that.
Definitely currently causing a lot of anguish.
Yeah,
I think we can leave some language in there about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really awful.
Okay. Anything else?
I just wanted to say we'll also not be at the March 28th meeting. I think that was kind of tentatively scheduled at this point, but there's something on there. So those are usually not action items, so I guess it doesn't matter too much.
Water group discussion.
Okay. You're good to adjourn?
Right, just let me know for sure about the 27th.
Good.
Okay, move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor of adjourning tonight's meeting, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mike, for joining us.
Thanks.
Yeah. Where are you?
Oh, I'm down climbing, hiking, and such in Joshua Tree.
You're
All right, well, enjoy the spring weather and be safe.
yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Spring weather when it's supposed to be spring weather places.